expand your thinking, create draft documentation with ease, and streamline your work as a business analyst. This is all possible with this tool, ChatGPT, and this is despite the industry-wide fear of AI and artificial intelligence somehow replacing business analysts. I think a better question is, how can we use these tools to increase our efficiency and our effectiveness as business analysts? There's immense potential for these tools to expand our thinking and make our jobs easier. And if that sounds like something that you'd like to do, just stick with me and I'll show you exactly how to do that. Hi, I'm Laura Brandenburg with Bridging the Gap, where we help you start, succeed, and excel in your business analyst career.
1980, when Magnum started. That was really the first.
With weekly videos on business analysis tips and techniques. If you are not subscribed to my YouTube channel yet, make sure to do so and hit that notification bell so that you can stay in the loop on all of our new videos. So ChatGPT was originally released back in June 2020, which feels like a lifetime ago at this point, and it was an open source language model developed by OpenAI. OpenAI is a for-profit AI research laboratory. And I think that's just a really important piece of context to keep in mind. Sometimes when free tools are available, it can just feel like, they're from nonprofits or sponsored by the government or whatever. But this is a for-profit company that's released this tool for most likely a limited time as a free resource to the community, and is in an exploration stage with how that tool is going to become part of its business model. In November 2022, specifically, this is when the GPT chatbot was launched as a prototype. And that is when it enabled anyone to register for a free account and start using the tool with natural language chats. And as of this recording, OpenAI has announced making a version of this tool available for $20 a month that would provide more guaranteed access. Like sometimes when you go today, it's like our systems are too busy, right? Because everybody's using this tool to help be more efficient in their work. So that subscription, as I understand it, would enable you to have like a VIP or primary access to the tool. And it's clear, this is just the beginning. The current tool and AI generally, these are powerful resources for us as business analysts to use, from everything from drafting requirements models to brainstorming questions to ask your stakeholders. And I'm going to show you how to do that. So let's go ahead and see how this could be used to draft a use case. So I'm going to type in the question here, please draft a use case titled Combine Accounts. All right, and then we get to wait for a moment. And here you go. One of the things while it's generating this response that I want to share is that one of the limitations of this tool is it's using information from pre-2022. And it's compiled that together. And as it's doing this, my understanding is it's creating unique content from the available information. But it's being written and regenerated in real time, always using a different perspective. So I did this before as a test before I did this video, and this use case now is different than that one that was generated before. So let's just take a look at what's going on here. So there's a description. The combined accounts use case allows users to merge multiple separate accounts into a single account. Makes perfect sense. This is useful for individuals who have created multiple accounts over time and would like to streamline their account information. We've got the actors, the preconditions, some user system interactions that seem to make pretty good sense. Prompts the user to log in credentials, verifies those credentials. That's interesting. I would often put login as a separate use case. That's kind of typically considered a best practice. A precondition would be the user being logged in versus how they have it here, a user logging in for, has their credentials. So, there's different nuances on how different people handle use cases, but typically a precondition is something that the user or the system can actually verify. The system can't verify that the user actually has their login credentials. So the spin on the use case here is maybe slightly different than a typical use case that I personally would write. some of that is personal and organizational preference though. So just throwing that out there. So then there's some really good steps here. The system merges those selected accounts. But again, it's like kind of missing those details. Like as an individual writing this use case for your organization, you will need to figure out like what are those details that need to be merged and what overwrites what. What's the primary account, right? There's some business rules there specific to your organization that you'll need to fill in. And then finally, the user logs out. Again, I would put that as a separate use case, but some of that stuff is preference. So let's look at what we are receiving here, because this is a really great draft. And if you were sitting down and like, oh my goodness, we have this feature to combine accounts, I have no idea what I should be doing. This would be a great way to give yourself a start and to start thinking about it. But again, we can see like your critical ability or thinking ability as a business analyst is still really important in making sure that this reflects what is used for your business. One of the things I wanted to note too is this use case does include most of the sections that are available through our use case template. And if that's something that you want to have access to, we'll leave a link below, and there also will probably be a card on screen as well. Okay, so let's take this a bit deeper, right? So this was great draft of the use case. I could work with this as a starting point. I'm going to say, well, I'm going into a stakeholder meeting. Can you please give me 10 questions I could ask a customer service representative, right? So a very specific role in the organization about this feature. Because this is another challenge that the business analysts face. Like I'm going into this meeting and I know I'm supposed to have an agenda. I know I'm supposed to be asking questions, right? What questions should I be asking? We actually have a whole product for this called our requirements discovery checklist pack. But I think it's also, it'd be great to use ChatGPT for this as well. So these are great questions. How do I combine my accounts? Is there a limit to the number of accounts I can merge? What happens to the information from the accounts that I discard? Can I undo an account merge once it's complete? These are great questions to getting through to the root cause of the features and the full business rules. So let's just take this yet another step deeper. And what we teach in the Business Analyst Blueprint certification program is a strategy for extracting user stories from your use case. So your use case includes the big picture of that user system interaction and how the whole feature flows. The user stories might have specific parts of that feature that are going to get implemented in different development cycles. So could you please, notice my politeness, I'm always please. I'm sure the machine does not really care, but it just still feels like the right thing to do. Break this use case down into user stories. So here we're getting those user stories, and that as a user, I want to be able to do something so that I can. So as a user with multiple accounts, I want to be able to combine my accounts so I can streamline my account information, right? So different user stories that are covering this whole feature of how do I combine accounts. So the specific pieces that might be implemented piece by piece. So that is an overview of ChatGPT and kind of how it can work to improve our efficiency as a business analyst. I think it's a great starting point here to still create user stories. Right? There's quite a few. There's a great starting point for us. And there are a lot of limitations as well. One of them that I already mentioned, it's only data from through 2022. Right. So it's not going, if there's a new feature or a new capability or something that is relatively recent with your functionality, it's not going to have the information that it's not going to be trained to use that kind of information to generate a response that would be meaningful for you. It's also really unable to determine what's important and what's not from there's no ethics and humanity involved in this, right? It is trained on the data set, so it is as good or as weak as the data set that it's been given. I think this is a really important piece to keep in mind as we think about AI tools in general, is where is the human ethics aspect of it? And, in this use case of combining accounts, that might not be very relevant, but in general, when we're asking it questions, it might not, it's not going to bring through our norms of how we want to handle diversity and inclusion or how we want to be a proponent of social justice or other values that may be important to us or to our organizations. That is not going to come out through a data set or a generation like this. So we really need to bring that to it. So it's really unable to determine as well what is important to your business and your stakeholders, right? Like we're not mining information specific to your company, and it's definitely not helping you get your stakeholders aligned on what this feature should look like. It's giving you a starting point, a set of questions to ask. And it's not going to be specific to your business at all. Although you could definitely drill in and say, like, if I'm running an insurance company, what would this merge account feature look like? And it will give you like another version of that would be much more specific to your domain. But the sense that I want to give you here is that AI, it's a powerful tool. It's an efficiency creating tool, but it's not an end all and a be all. It's going to give you a draft. It's going to give you a starting point, but not your final product. And it's not going to help you. It's not going to create alignment and clarity among your stakeholder group. The key message I want you to receive is there is no substitute for the thinking you do about the requirements and how they impact your business as a business analyst. Now, let's just talk about also some of the limitations to you when it comes to succeeding as a business analyst. Because as you saw, I started to kind of pick apart exactly how that use case was structured. And so you need to know like what a use case is, how to evaluate the results that were generated, what are best practices in terms of how your organization organizes use cases and functional requirements. And if you're not already familiar with that or you need a refresher, I did do a full video on what a use case is and how to write one. And you can watch that video by clicking the card on the screen now. I've also found often that this tool will put me into a little bit of a spin. So I have used it to flesh out outlines for videos and social media posts, and it gives me like a lot of great ideas, right? And often it gives me almost too many ideas. And so I need to do the work to filter out what's really important from my audience and the point that I want to get across. And so just taking the outline as it is and copying and pasting it, or even allowing the tool to write an entire video script, it's totally possible. But if I did that, it wouldn't come across as me. It wouldn't be the kind of content you're used to getting from Bridging the Gap. And so the same thing is true as you're using it to draft requirements. It's your starting point, but you need to really bring that flavor. And if it's putting you in a spin and a bit of overwhelm, a lot of business analysts really struggle with imposter syndrome. And so seeing a tool create, a draft of a document in something that in seconds, when it takes you hours the first time through, or hopefully, within time, you're creating something like that within 20 to 30 minutes, like as a rough draft. But it can be a real mind bender to see a tool just spit it out just like that. And it can also have a sense of authority of like the tool knows better than me, right? This tool, they put login in there. Like, why am I not doing that in my use case? Or, this tool has it done this way and left out these sorts of details. Like, why am I not doing that? Like, you are still in control. You are still the authority. The tool is a resource to help you. It's a really important mindset to keep in mind as you're using a tool like this. And just being aware that it could send you off on tangents that your business rationale and goals do not support. You want to be really careful that like your use of ChatGPT doesn't give you scope creep, right? That your stakeholders aren't even asking for. We already have that problem within our projects. We don't need more. So, and this is just a side note, like this is where access to coaching and mentoring and training really remain critical for you and your mental game. In our programs, our instructors are still doing like real live reviews of your actual work and documentation because we know how important that is in cultivating your competence. And so having that kind of review cycle and that training cycle is still incredibly important. So with all of this said, I think it's also important to remember these tools are still relatively new. And we're just starting to see like the shimmer of their potential and how disruptive already this technology has been just in the last few months. They are going to continue to expand and evolve. They're going to continue to improve. They're going to get better. And so we could see a future where these sorts of tools identify and merge duplicate requirements, show requirements conflicts for us automatically, map the information resources of your organization to be used to identify requirements and project impacts, right? Like these tools can be a great thinking and analysis ability. And even that is just probably the beginning. So given that these tools will continue to get smarter and will continue to increase in capability, how can you position yourself? Well, there's no point really in being afraid of the tool or just trying to like push it down or put your head in the sand, which honestly is what I was doing for probably the last few years. Instead, this is the time to dive in, embrace, learn how to leverage the tool set to increase your efficiency, bring these ideas to your team and to your projects, free up your time right here and now for the capabilities that are not replicated by machines, right? So those capabilities are your ability to build relationships, your ability to bring people together, creating alignment and clarity, gaining buy-in, ensuring the requirements you write actually meet the business objectives, and that your team can deliver them and that they achieve real business value. So if anything, these tools are here to support us with the more limited sort of menial work of a business analyst, so we can shift our energy and attention to the more meaningful aspects of our work. So we are just beginning to see the power of these types of tools in terms of supporting our workflow. And if you have used ChatGPT in your workflow as a business analyst, I would love for you to drop me a comment below and let us know, how are you using this tool? How has it helped your effectiveness as a business analyst? What are your wins? What are your questions? What are your fears around it? Where are the places that you get stuck? Where has it helped you and where has it left you wanting more? Remember, the tool has a lot of limitations, but there is also so much more to a use case than that AI generated version. So just like AI is not going to replace business analysts, its output won't replace human insight, creativity, customized problem solving to the needs of your specific business. And you need to know why each section of that use case is important and how to think through it so you can validate that information with your stakeholders. That's why our use case template is so valuable and will help you
be helped to be off of mute, right?
Yeah.
So, barring her sales pitches and everything, there were a few of them in there. I think that last little bit was really important. But she had a lot of great advice during that whole thing. So, what'd you take away? What were the great insights you heard from that video?
I've got one that I can add is one of the things that she's saying is you can use this AI to give you a starting point. That's one of the key things. It's going to give you a starting point. It's like a rough draft. It's going to get you whatever, halfway there maybe. I mean, it's not going to be perfect. You're definitely going to want to revise it and make it fit what you need it to do. And you need to validate that it's right, but it's going to give you a starting point versus a blank sheet of paper. And the other thing is that she was saying as well is, in the case of her use case that she's trying to generate, you can give it a template for a use case and it'll try to follow your template and fill in the blanks a little bit. So if you give it some guidance, meaning some context about what you want your use case to look like in the end, then it can get something that's a little bit closer to something that you can use. So there's a couple of things that I got from it.
Okay. So yeah, starting point, right? It's not the end product. If you just do copy and paste of the output from ChatGPT or any other generative AI tool and hand that to your stakeholders as your work, you might get embarrassed by that. If you have not reviewed it for accuracy and relevancy to your situation, you're not doing your stakeholders a service. I think we've all heard that story of the attorney. This was in 2023, I believe, and I think you noticed that video was a little old. I think it was 2 years ago. because ChatGPT 4 is out here, which has more up-to-date data and gives you more relevant response. That's the one that's $20 a month. You pay for that one. You can, of course, get the free account, which is still ChatGPT 3.5. And that, but yeah, the attorney, 2023, I forget if this was California or somewhere, used ChatGPT to prepare for a case and asked it to cite some cases along, whatever his topic was, or the thing, and he just took those results and argued them in court. He didn't validate the results, and come to find out, some of the case studies or the cases, of law that ChatGPT gave to him, it didn't exist. So, it hallucinated, as they call it, made up stuff because it could, ChatGPT couldn't find information on that. So you must absolutely, use your expertise as a business analyst, because ChatGPT doesn't have 5, 10, 15, 20 years of business analysis experience. You do. It's not going to do the thinking for you. That's why you have to use it, as Van said, and it's a starting point. Don't use it as your final product and just hand that off to your stakeholders. That's where you use your expertise, your experience as a business analyst, and add to it and verify it, validate it, that it's accurate, that it's relevant. If it's talking about, architecture form and you work in insurance, you're going to have problems with that. So, I think most of these videos we will look at over the next 3-4 months, plus last month, or last week. I think they're all going to give you that advice. Is just don't take the results and take them as gospel truth and pass them off to your stakeholders. Then you're not doing your job as a business analyst. Okay, you still have to do your job. It's just going to give you a starting point, as Van said. One thing I've noticed with my use of ChatGPT, and I use Claude a lot, which is just one of the competitors of ChatGPT. It makes me think, and it gives me great ideas on things I wouldn't have thought of and everything if I just did all the work myself. And that, it may ask questions that I wouldn't have thought to ask, like the negative, you're talking about this situation, if, whatever your accounts are there, but, what if a particular type of account isn't there to be merged or whatever? Then what is your feature supposed to do? I hadn't thought about that. But that was an idea that ChatGPT could give you. And so she made it a point that this is ChatGPT is from OpenAI, which is a for-profit company. It's not a nonprofit. It's not a government agency. Was there anybody take that as an important fact or thinks that changes?
I think OpenAI was purchased by Microsoft since this video was done. Might want to look at that. I'm not positive of that, but
throw
I
it
think
away in that, because they have Copilot, right?
I think they're taking it over and using it as part of Copilot. Maybe. So maybe take a look at that OpenAI and who owns it now. I think they're not an independent company anymore. I
Oh,
think they've
really?
been purchased by somebody bigger. I thought it was Microsoft, but I'd have to double check that. I can double check
Could
that
be
while we're
Google,
thinking, but
huh?
yeah, one of those, I thought it was purchased by one of the big companies, because they were like on the forefront. They came out with GPT and hit the market, and then they sold and made big money. So I'm pretty sure that that's been sold to another company now. So just an FYI, something food for thought there. Maybe
Stephanie.
run that past Chat GPT and see what it says. Who owns OpenAI right
Microsoft
now?
owns 49% of OpenAI.
OpenAI. Okay, I thought something like that had happened. Okay, well anyway, that's the scoop there. So
excuse me.
it's still for profit.
Okay.
It's just it's mostly Microsoft now.
Well, and when you think about like things that are for profit, I mean, it's just like when somebody does a study, right? And you want to know who funded the study, right? And how things could be askew. Those are things that you need to think about too, when you're utilizing anything. I mean, especially any kind of GenAI type tools. So.
Okay.
That's true.
I like how she took her use case and then extrapolated user stories out of that. So brought the big thing down to something that she could use with her stakeholders. Wasn't that a unique feature and everything? So, started with the big picture, got something, you could use as a use case and everything, but then from that got into what is the real work, the user stories. So I thought that was a very unique thing and very valuable to us as business analysts.
Yeah, interestingly enough, one of the things that I've been doing with not just ChatGPT, but Claude and Perplexity and Copilot and a couple of other tools is actually approaching it from the standpoint of not the blank page, but approaching it from the standpoint of a resource to help me be better at what I do. So I feed a lot of the stuff that I write into the AI tools and say, okay, give me your impression of this. And I've used it to refine a lot of the work that I've done. And I often play the tools off one against another. I'll send one draft to a tool and I'll get their updates on it and pick up those updates and send them back to a different tool or send them to a third tool and just gather all of the information from all of those different perspectives to try and get to what I think is the ultimate output.
I'm curious, how does that compare when you're when you're putting it up against two different tools? I have to assume it's going to be somewhat similar, right?
Yeah, it's usually somewhat similar, but they're just little tweaks. Each one of these tools has its own different personality. I find that Claude is very much like me. Claude speaks the way I speak. I just feel very comfortable with the stuff that Claude puts out, but then I'll put it over to ChatGPT and I'll get a slightly different perspective on it because it just looks at things slightly differently. So it's fascinating.
Is Claude free?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, there's a free version and there's a paid version.
I think these tools will be like that, where there's free version and a paid version. So
they're developing different tiers too. ChatGPT now has, I think they have a $20 a month version and a $200 a month version. And I think Claude is the same
oh my
way.
God.
Well, they're looking at it as corporate tools. So they're saying, if you're working in a corporation and you want an AI tool in your corporation, yeah, give me your number of users, pay $200 a month for your X number of users, and rock and roll.
Yeah. So more like a enterprise license or something of that nature.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, Aaron, kind of what Tom's saying. I think she had mentioned too that it has a sense of authority, that this tool knows better than me and you're still the authority. The tool's a resource to help you.
Absolutely.
I've been there with that, where I've fed stuff into ChatGPT. I was working on a presentation and I asked it to analyze some data for me. And it said, look, here's your analysis. But remember, I'm here as a tool to help you. You're responsible for this. You need to provide your insight and input into this. I can manipulate the data all day long, but it's your job as the analyst to make sense out of this. Which I thought was fascinating.
It told you that?
Yep.
Wow, I had not had it
Replace you.
told me that
My
before.
job is not to replace you. My job is to work with you. And that was several months ago already.
All right. Well, that's excellent, and I think that was another key thing that Laura had talked about a couple of times in the video. What Becky is bringing up here, and that is, I have no fear that I'm going to be replaced by ChatGPT or AI or anything. Um, you know, I don't see AI as being able to replace, my intuitive thinking, my human aspects and everything. You can't train data, you can't train a large language model on the culture and what she was saying, some of the social um, aspects of what the world is going through, what's important to you or your organization, from the social concepts and things, as well as what is the organization culture, what are the values that are important to you. um, you know ChatGPT or any generative AI doesn't know those things. You can tell it, but does it really understand those things? It's not going to do your thinking for you. It will help. Um, and as I was saying before, you just can't take the results and hand that off to your stakeholders. Then at that point, you're not doing your job, and you're not verifying, you're not validating accuracy and relevance, and you may be setting yourself up to be embarrassed in front of your stakeholders because you handed off something that was not relevant to that, just like that attorney was, um, when they found out that, case studies that he was arguing in court did not actually exist. So, in a video we'll see in a couple of weeks, we have somebody who argue that you are not at risk of being replaced by AI, but you may be replaced by a business analyst who uses AI if you don't. Because they can think more in that because AI is giving it some alternative things to think about, and that in its responses, and that, like I was saying earlier, it gives me ideas, and things I didn't think about on my own. I go, oh, I got to take that into consideration. um, and it'll help you work faster. And how fast did she create that use case and all those user stories where it could have taken you a day to do all of that. So it is a tool. Think of it as a tool. It's a very powerful tool, and I don't know how many of you are actually using it now or wanting to get into using it. But it's something you want to start, if you haven't already, start really getting integrated to your daily business analysis work. Now, then again, make sure your organization knows what you're doing with it and everything, because every organization has great concerns over, particularly their um, privately held and their confidential information getting out to the public. Because every prompt you give a ChatGPT retrains the large language model, and it can use those prompts into its public domain. So I know at my organization at first we were hands off, you can't use it, and all that. Now they've authorized Copilot within my organization, and we have our own language model using Copilot. So we don't have that fear of our private information getting out into the public anymore. So organizations are doing that too, where they have their privately held language models. But you certainly don't want to be, you want to be completely transparent, with your manager and your organization about what you're doing. And how you can bring these tools to your organization. And it's good for a lot more than just business analysts. Probably every position in the organization could probably use it. I've heard of places where developers are using ChatGPT to write code for them. And I recently got a micro credential on AI for product owners. So there are many places where this can be a helpful tool, but in every one of those situations, it is a tool to help you. And
One point that was very apparent to me, because I'm sensitive to it, there's a whole lot for people who are not AI, I'm going to say gurus, but not gurus, but AI users. There's a big fear of, oh, in order to use this tool, I have to learn prompt engineering. And there are courses and certifications and degrees and whatever on prompt engineering. And I was really pleased that she started her interaction with ChatGPT by just simply saying, write me a use case. Because that's where you get started. It's not, I have to know, well, I have to give it some context. I have to give it some background. I have to give it all of my business rules. I have to give it all of this stuff in order to get useful output from it. No, you just have to ask it for something. And if you don't like what it gives you, you ask it another question. You ask it for more information. You ask it to expand. You ask it to extend. You ask it to go in a different direction. But you start just by saying, tell me about this, or I need information about this.
yeah, absolutely. And yeah, you don't have to give it all of that background. It's been trained on that background. When I first started using ChatGPT at that time, or AI tools, I shouldn't say ChatGPT, but at that time I was supporting a business line within our organization. I work for insurance, if you didn't know that, but we had surety that has surety bonds and everything. So I just went and asked. Actually, I did ask ChatGPT. Tell me about surety insurance. And boy, it knew. I tell you, it could tell me all about it exactly. It's a 3-person contract instead of a 2-person contract or entity. And it told me what types of bonds and what kind of coverages you can have in surety bonds and all kinds of things. So it knew all of that stuff. I didn't have to tell it. That's why it is a large language model, and it's built on millions and millions of bytes of data. So, like Tom was saying, just ask it a question. And, when ChatGPT came out and everything, and as Tom said, everybody was, oh, I got to learn this whole new thing about prompt engineering. And I'm very glad that that's not a big topic anymore, especially in our business analysis community. It never got hooked into business, it never got kind of connected to business analysis. And it's not this big fearful monster anymore that I got to learn all this and that.
It's a smart stakeholder.
Yeah, I think prompt engineering is iterating through prompts. Like Tom was saying, if you don't like the first results, you can ask it for more information. Or take a piece of it they get and the ChatGPT gave you and say, can you expand upon that? Things of that nature to get to the results that you want. You can take the results that ChatGPT gave you. It's easy to copy out of any of those tools. There's some copy button on there somewhere. I've noticed in all the UIs that I talk with ChatGPT, and then I can just hit a copy button, put it into a Word document, and take it from there. And so don't have to fully use the tool to get the absolute results I want. I can get it to where it's useful and everything, copy it off and then take it, into a Word document or an Excel or something, and use my expertise to further refine it. Anybody
So
get anything else?
I was going to say, so another point that I liked was where she's saying that it does give you a lot of ideas, maybe too many ideas. It can send you off on a tangent that your business goal doesn't support. So make sure that it doesn't give you scope creep.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
big time. Yep.
Yes.
Very, very much that. Also, what I find fun and interesting is that I sometimes challenge the tools. I'll get an answer from it and I'll say, "Are you serious? Are you hallucinating? Where did you get that?" And it's like, okay, you're right. I had no idea what I was talking about. Let me go back and think about that a little bit more. So it's really kind of fun and interesting to talk to these things, and sometimes it's hard to realize that they're not people.
Mm.
Um,
So, like Tom Hathaway was telling us last week, in that you can ask ChatGPT or any of the AI tools to cite its resources. And if it cannot cite a resource, then you could consider that may have been a hallucination, that it really just made something up because it couldn't find something. So that's always a possibility. Okay. Anything else? Was that useful? Was that, you like that insights that you got from Laura? Okay. She just has a little bit more to tell us. So let me cue her up again. Oh, I still got shared sound on. That's good.
Imagine being able to build anything.
Not that one. Here's Laura again.
GPT can make you more efficient your deliverables as a business analyst. Now, what I've seen is there are two different ways to use ChatGPT. One is to invest a lot of time in creating a really well-crafted prompt that has a lot of context and give that to ChatGPT, and often you'll receive a really good answer right off the bat. The second way is to kind of ask a good question that you've put some thought into, but then iterate through. When you get back the response from ChatGPT, ask a follow-up question, refine what you're looking for, and use more of an iterative process to generate until you get the answer that you're looking for. Neither way is better or worse or more advanced, but the idea is that you need to know what a good output looks like, and you need to know what questions to ask and how to think about it. So which way do you use as a business analyst, and how is that working for you? Leave me a comment below. So you've probably heard how
Start. So there, talked about two different ways to use ChatGPT. Put a lot of thought into it, writing from the beginning, craft a well-structured prompt. So, and basically feed it one prompt and use those results. I think even if you do that, you may do what we have talked about before, about, oh, there's a piece there. I need you to expand upon that. Or can you change this piece to, something else? So you are going through what the second approach she talked about was iterating through, take the results and ask it for more information or to expand upon what it already gave you. So either way is fine. It's certainly two different ways of using any generative AI. Don't be afraid to use either one. So, has everybody started using the tool? Whether as a business analyst, or I use it a lot for the Bluegrass IIBA chapter. If you go out to our events page, a lot of those abstracts, I've used Claude to help write those. But of course, I take the results from Claude and I manipulate it a little bit, knowing, what will really truly attract business analysts to coming to the event, and informing them of what they can expect from it. Okay. Anybody have any parting thoughts? No parting thoughts? All right. I hope you enjoyed this week's session. We will have a session next week where we will look at another content and learn from another person, expert in the field that is using ChatGPT or AI, and get some more insights from them. Appreciate your time. Thank you very much for being here, and we will see you next week.
Thank you.
Actually, I won't. I'll be out next week. But I have people covering it, so do join us next week. Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.